And we're now getting some breaking news. Prime Minister Modi meets world leaders at the G20 summit in South Africa. Modi meets Prime Minister of Ethiopia and President of Sierra Leone. Modi also meets German Chancellor Friedrich Merz. So Prime Minister Modi greets world leaders at the G20 summit in Johannesburg. He met with the Prime Minister of Ethiopia and the President of Sierra Leone. In fact, he also met with German Chancellor Friedrich Merz. And he met several other world leaders as well at the G20 summit in Johannesburg, and where Prime Minister Modi has proposed 6 new initiatives aimed at global development at the G20 Leaders Summit. These include the setting up of a global traditional knowledge repository, Africa Skills Multiplier Initiative, Global Healthcare Response Team, Initiative on Countering the Drug Terror Nexus, and Open Satellite Data Partnership as well. India Today Global's Pranay Upadhyay is now joining us with more details on this. Pranay, Prime Minister Modi met several world leaders at the G20 summit, including German Chancellor Friedrich Merz and President of Sierra Leone. In fact, also tell us about the key takeaways from the G20 summit.
Good morning, Anjali. And Prime Minister Narendra Modi, as you mentioned, met world leaders on the sidelines of the G20 summit, including the Prime Minister of Ethiopia, the Prime Minister of Singapore, the President of President of South Korea, German Chancellor Friedrich Merz, French President Emmanuel Macron, and the various other world leaders, the President of Vietnam, many world leaders, over a dozen world leaders he has engagement with, and besides the representatives of the world organizations, including WHO, and Prime Minister very fondly, remembered and mentioned his name, Dr. Tedros, who is the Director General of WHO, as Tulsi Bhai, which he mentioned during the G20 summit in India. And besides that, Prime Minister had engagement with the WTO DG as well. So definitely, Prime Minister Modi had wide-ranging engagement with the world leaders on the sidelines of the G20 summit. And if you see his participation in the session 2 of the G20 summit, which was largely around the climate change, the disaster reduction, and Prime Minister clearly mentioned a very pertinent and a very important point, that the global approach to disaster resilience must move on from being response-centric to being development-centric. And this is a very key area, because we know that how world reacts to a global challenge. Often we see how climate change is impacting in terms of floods, in terms of the tornadoes or the cyclones. But often the response has always been very, it's very event-centric. And Prime Minister has mentioned clearly that we should move and make it more development-centric. And for that, Prime Minister Modi mentioned that how India launched the CDRI, the Coalition for Disaster Resilient Infrastructure, which was proposed by India a few years ago in the United Nations. And by working together with CDRI, the G20 countries can mobilize the finance, technology, skills, and various other areas of cooperation. So this was the major emphasis by Prime Minister Modi during the G20 summit, the second session. And Prime Minister Modi would also participate in the third session as well today. And besides that, he's also expected to have more engagements on this before leaving for India.
All right, Pranay, thank you so much for getting us all those details. We'll keep coming back to you for more updates on the story.